Hey, come see us on tour. We're going to be in Duluth, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, Jacksonville, Florida, Tempe, Arizona, and Burbank, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. So Cornel West came out with a big announcement yesterday, right after RFK Jr. dropped out. But let's remember what he used to say about Dr. Fauci.
What a blessing to just be in conversation with you, though, brother. What a great exemplar of integrity, honesty, and decency you have been over your 79 years on the globe.
So that's what he used to say about Dr. Fauci. Now, I can overlook that because I didn't know anything about Dr. Fauci at the beginning of this either. So, but that's what he said.
What a blessing to just be in conversation with you, though, brother. What a great exemplar of integrity, honesty, and decency you have been over your 79 years on the globe.
I don't know why he got to go over the top like that. His 79 years on the globe, holy cow, why he would say all that. But he did. Here is what he said yesterday. This is what he tweeted out.
I want to speak to my brothers and sisters of all colors who are concerned about not just the vaccine, but the role of the pharmaceutical company in shaping public policy, not allowing the various voices to be heard, the role of censorship, the attempt to impose closure on various voices that would help us understand what's really going on when it comes to healthcare policy vis-a-vis vaccine. I want a truth commission to find out what happened in the past, and I want to make sure that each and every one of us have fair access to the truth.
Boy, you've come a long way. You went all the way from honoring Anthony Fauci to suddenly wanting a commission to figure out where Anthony Fauci lied to us. Wow. That's amazing. So guess what? RFK Jr., he comes in and says, so grateful to you, Cornel, for commitment to ending the corruption. And what I say is I will join with anyone to do good and no one to do bad. So if Cornel is serious about that, that's great. I know he doesn't want to ever hear from me again, but Cornel West says, thank you, my dear brother. We must fight against all forms of corruption, greed, hatred, and genocide. God bless you and your precious family. It would have been more helpful if Cornel West was on this in real time. The fact that he's way late to this party is a little annoying, but I'm glad to have him, right? Anyway, so Mary Talley Bowden, who we've had on this show, hey, she says, would like you to add your name to the list of politicians calling for the COVID shots to be pulled off the market and pledging not to take donations from Big Pharma. Hey, nobody responded to that. Postuopoulos says, a little late for this, bro, talking to Cornel. I'll take it, but yeah, it's a little annoying. The people who I thought would stand out and say something when they were firing 70,000 workers for not taking an experimental medical treatment, I thought it would be Cornel West standing up for workers. He didn't. I thought it would be him standing up against this tyranny, and he didn't. So, but then people are giving him shit. So now he's on the right side of it. Nobody's up to date that I know on their 10th, because you're supposed to be on your 10th shot right now. You're supposed to be. Do you know anybody who's on their 10th shot? Even Fauci said he was only on 6 when he got COVID last time. So at some point, it's gone down to that the overwhelming majority of people are not following the CDC guidelines on taking their boosters, as they call them, boosters. So at some point, people stop listening to the CDC's guidelines. They stop listening to Fauci. They stop listening to Collins. They stop listening to the mainstream news. At some point, most Americans did. At some point. Except for people like Dr. Lucky Tran. It's sad to see Cornel West go deep into anti-vax COVID denialism and anti-science. No, he's actually saying we need to look into this scientifically. So, and all they have is smears. You don't have any questions about, they lied about masks. They lied about funding the gain of function that gave us the virus. They lied about where the virus came from. They lied about herd immunity. They lied about natural immunity. They lied about transmission, contraction. There wasn't a thing they didn't lie about it. But you're still going to call people anti-vax, COVID denialists, and anti-science for looking into it? Hey, if you're going to go to a doctor named Lucky Tran, you deserve whatever whatever you end up with. Good luck. Dr. Lucky Tran. Here is some social done left. SDL. Insane anti-vaxxer RFK drops out. Insane. Again, that's why they won't bring him on television, because every time RFK's asked about the vaccines, he makes complete sense. He makes perfect sense. Insane. That's why you can never trust somebody who doesn't have a real name on Twitter. The next day, you start going for the anti-vax vote. So people who want to look into a health problem are now anti-vax. It's just amazing. Honestly, as long as it keeps them from voting Trump, I don't care. Good luck and Godspeed winning over the pro-COVID nutters. At almost 3,000 likes. Wow. So morons like this are the problem, right? I would like to ask SDL, are you on your 10th shot? Because that's what the CDC recommends. Are you on your 10th? And how's that going for you? How you feel physically? How's your immune system? These would be my questions for you. But I don't know. I don't want to be anti-science. Fucking morons. Rand Paul, he says, this is an ad that was running. He said, I've launched a bipartisan investigation to examine the origins of COVID, gain-of-function research, and Dr. Fauci's cover-up attempts, all to prevent a future pandemic. Will you stand with me? Get to the bottom of what really happened? Add your name. I wonder if Cornel has added his name. I agree with this position, but kindly, Dr. West, you're late with this message. You dismissed Jimmy Dore when he begged you to change your tune, and you mocked him. He did mock me a little. It looks like Jimmy Dore got through to you. To be honest, it's a little late, and when it mattered, you were nowhere to be found. That is true. When it mattered, he was nowhere to be found. But I'll cut him slack. I'm glad he's on board. I'm willing to let bygones be bygones. I'm willing to let go, forgive and forget. He went around slandering me, even though he's working with Peter Dow, pretending he didn't know what he was doing, saying that Joe Biden's the lesser of two evils. I had big hopes for his campaign. It turns out he's not much of a politician. I mean, so here's the weird thing that I'll show you. Here's the weird thing that Cornel West did when he came on our show. So he was talking about this last year, about a commission to look into the vaccines. And so he's running for president. So we agreed. So when you get somebody to agree with you, you agree to agree, don't you? But then he went out of his way. He went out of his way to try to find a way to disagree with me and stick a shiv in me, which is the exact opposite of what you're supposed to be doing if you're trying to be actually running for president or trying to build a coalition. Why not just agree with me? Why? Well, I'll play it for you. Here it is.
Text. We know the books are out there, but they have a truth commission so that we can see what voices were marginalized, what voices were pushed aside, and make sure it never happens again.
So there I am. I'm in solidarity with you on this point. Let's do that. By the way, the COVID issue, and if as many people died as they say have died from the intervention from COVID, it's the biggest story of our lifetime. It's the biggest story of ours. It's way bigger than the Iraq War. It's bigger than any story. I'm sorry, it is. If you look into the excess deaths and how many people have died, it's the biggest story of our lifetime. There's no bigger story than this. And so we're in agreement, and now he's going to go out of his way to disagree with me.
Resonate with the spirit of what my green black brothers and sisters are saying, but the Green Party itself does allow this kind of disagreement and so on. But I'll say this though, brother, I know I got to go, but I must say, see, this is where you and I do in some ways live in different worlds, because.
So now he's going to say he and I live in different worlds. I know I live in the real world of workers because I'm out, but he's lived in ivory towers for at least the last 40, 45 years, if not longer. So here we go.
As crucial and as important as the issue of vaccines and the COVID situation was, when you say that's probably the most important issue in your lifetime or in the last 25 or 30 years, in light of all the wars, in light of what Palestinians are going through, in light of what workers are going through, 63% of them living paycheck to paycheck, in terms of all the vicious attacks of the police and the murders and so forth, and yet this vaccine issue is the most important thing. I say, okay, that's my dear brother Jimmy. He's got a right to raise his voice. I'm not going to in any way push it away, but I just live in a different world. As important as vaccines have been, if I had another chance, I'd be leaning much more with the Black Caucus. But when I think of the weightiest issues, vaccines does not come immediately to mind.
Why would you go out of your way to find a way to disagree with me on that? If you think it's important and crucial, leave it at that. What that made no sense. Him trying to discredit the argument made no sense whatsoever. Zero. I've never seen a politician do that in my life. And so I was upset that where was he when we needed his voice? So, in retrospect, I probably should have just let it go and say, hey, we agree on that. Let's go. But it bothered me that when 41% of black-owned businesses got shuttered during COVID because of unscientific lockdowns, he didn't say a word. When workers were getting kicked out of their jobs by the hundreds of thousands because they wouldn't take an experiment, he didn't say anything. He didn't stand in solidarity with anybody. So it bugged me that he said that he goes out of his way to try to diminish. And there's millions and millions of people dead. And look at all the devastation that the interventions over COVID costs, the lockdowns, the unscientific lockdowns, the isolation, the people. Now we know that the intubations were killing people. The denial of early treatments, the lying about early treatments, calling things horse dewormers. Why aren't you? So here's what I go on to say this.
It just doesn't. That's the kind of world we live in, brother.
Okay.
Maybe I spend,
Well, here it is. The black business owners collapsed by 41%. Black business because of lockdowns. Do you care yet?
Well,
almost half of black businesses completely shuttered. You want to talk about something else? Really? Permanently. 41% in U.S. lockdowns. Black business owners ranks collapse. 70,000 workers in one state were fired because of vaccine mandates. When are you going to care? Do they all have to be trans? When are you going to care about these workers? What are you going to care about? What are you going to care about this?
They have to be trans for me to care.
You don't care. You don't care. Why don't you care about this?
Why would you accuse me? Of course I care about it.
You're saying it's not important.
I didn't say it wasn't important. I said it was not the most fundamental issue in my lifetime the last 30 years.
Forced medical experiments? Forced medical experiments that the scheme.
Where is the nuance?
Oh my God.
Where is the complexity?
So you missed this story and you're not interested in getting it right.
You agree with Jimmy Dore.
So you missed this story and you're not interested. Well, Dr. West. So I probably shouldn't have been as combative as I was. If I had to do it over again, I would have just showed him that and said I was disappointed that it, and it doesn't have to be the most important thing to you, but you should definitely look into it. And I was disappointed that you weren't there when we needed you. But anyway, yeah, I probably should have been less combative. So, but you know, I'm an emotional guy. That whole interview was emotional, and so I'm glad to have him on board. I'm glad to see him out there sticking his chin out, and he's getting his chin kicked in for even now, just saying, hey, we should have a vaccine commission look into it. We should have a commission look into COVID, and people are beating him up over it. So, as at my second, at this part anyway, this part of it, I don't know. It still bothers me that the people who I looked up to were nowhere to be found during COVID. Didn't have a question. We're giving tongue baths to Anthony Fauci instead of questioning him. I could never get Anthony Fauci on my show. He'd never come anywhere near me. And so anyway, I just thought I'd show you that. But it's good to have Cornel West on, and I'm willing to let bygones be bygones and water under the bridge. But I guarantee you he'll never talk to me again. Hey, come see us on tour. We're going to be in Duluth, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, Jacksonville, Florida, Tempe, Arizona, and Burbank, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.